Hey everybody, this is going to be the first video in a series of brief videos on addictions. And let's begin by defining addiction. What is an addiction? So there's a very simple definition of addiction, and then there's a more complex one. And I'll tell you, I used to work in a recovery treatment center, and I was a pre-doc, and we had to give these little lectures in the evenings to people who were, who had come into recovery. And sometimes you had people who were in their first day. You know, they were still detoxing, sweaty, nodding off, or really agitated, really having a hard time concentrating. So for them, I would often just give the really simple definition of addiction. And here it is. And the simple definition is this bad for me? If the answer is yes, and I choose to use despite the consequences, there's probably a problem. So basically it goes like this. So here's my coffee, okay? My nice big cup of coffee, which is, got lots of shots of espresso in here. So let's say my doctor told me that this is bad for my heart, and if I drink it, I could have a heart attack. Now, a normal person who doesn't have an addiction to caffeine or coffee would say, oh, okay, I better quit. But somebody who has an addiction might continue to drink despite the consequences, whether it's alcohol or coffee, right? And in that case, there's probably a problem, right? If I'm going to drink this and it could kill me, and I know that, I probably have a problem. So that's the very simple definition of addiction. And my doctor did not tell me that it could kill me or, that it would cause a problem. So I can drink coffee, whether I'm addicted to it or not. So now here's a more complex and full definition, and comes in part from the DSM. It's not entirely the DSM definition. So here we see three components of addiction: tolerance, withdrawal, and craving. Let's begin with tolerance. What does tolerance to a drug mean? So what tolerance means is needing to use more of the substance to obtain the same effect. Now, not all substances or drugs create tolerance. What might not create tolerance? Some drugs create less tolerance, and I'm thinking of things like Benadryl or Tylenol. Maybe there's some. I actually don't know too much. But when we're talking about some drugs like opiates and stimulants, typically what we see is that the person builds up tolerance, and it can be pretty quickly. And what that means is that you're going to need to use more and more of the substance to obtain the same original effect that it had on you. And I'm going to skip here. Yeah, let's look at homeostasis. So the meaning of homeostasis, and some of you probably know this, it's kind of a balance. It's the tendency towards a stable equilibrium. And it doesn't mean static. Homeostasis isn't static. It doesn't mean that you find a balance and you stay there. What it means is that the system is always working to find the right response, the right balance to keep it in the state that it most wants to be. So, for example, your body temperature is 98.6. Typically, your internal body temperature, something like that. It's supposed to be around there. Now, let's say you go outside and it is 110 degrees out. What is your internal body temperature? Do you start running a fever because it's hot out? And the answer is no. Your internal body temperature stays the same. It stays at around 98.6. But the body has to do all kinds of things for that. So your blood vessels are going to go to the outside of your body so that they can cool off. You're going to start fanning yourself. You're going to seek shade. You're going to take off clothes. You might go into cold water. and there are all kinds of internal processes that your body is also going to undergo in order to keep your internal body temperature at 98.6. And the same thing happens if you go outside and it's 40 degrees out. It's cold, so your blood vessels will go inward to stay warm, and you'll shiver, and you'll probably put on clothes, and you'll huddle, and do all the things that are required, again, to keep your body temperature where it wants to be, so which is 98.6. So as you can see, it's not a static, oh, we found the perfect 98.6 and it's going to stay this way. Homeostasis responds to the world and to the environment. We're constantly trying to stay in balance. And your body does that with everything. It does that with hydration. You get a little dehydrated, you drink water, you are hydrated enough, you stop drinking, you get low on calories and energy, you get hungry, so you eat, you're full, you stop, etc. So it's this balance. Now, what happens is we then go ahead and throw some kind of a drug inside the body and throw everything out of balance. The result of that is withdrawal when we stop taking the drug. But I'm going to stop this video here. And when we come into the next video, we'll talk a little bit about how drugs disrupt the homeostasis and create symptoms of tolerance and withdrawal when we stop. Okay, here we go.